Silence around sexual assault and harassment is a persistent problem that needs to be addressed. The fear of speaking out can have devastating consequences on a woman's life, from the toll on her mental health to the impact on her relationships and career. It's time to start having honest conversations about why women feel unable to report sexual assault and harassment, and what we can do to make sure that survivors feel safe and supported. In this video, we'll explore some of the challenges that women face when considering whether to speak out about their experiences and what we can do to create a more supportive environment for survivors. So let's get into it. The reality of reporting is only about 20% of all sexual assaults are reported to law enforcement. Women often do not report their attackers due to fear of retaliation, shame and stigma, lack of trust in the criminal justice system, and the invasive and re-traumatizing process of reporting and doing a rape kit. This is especially true when the attacker is familiar to the victim, such as a spouse or partner, or if the victim has had negative experiences with law enforcement in the past. The fear of retaliation is one of the biggest obstacles women face when choosing to report an assault. It's a valid fear because survivors who speak out about their experiences are often subjected to a lot of negative consequences, including threats of harm to themselves or their loved ones, harassment, intimidation, and even physical violence. The fear of losing a job, being blacklisted in a profession, or having to confront the perpetrator and his supporters can be overwhelming, making it extremely difficult for survivors to come forward. Women who do speak out are often subjected to victim blaming and shaming, which only compounds the trauma they've already experienced. This is especially true if the perpetrator is someone who is respected by the community or in a position of power. The shame and stigma surrounding sexual assault can be another significant barrier for women when it comes to reporting the crime. Unfortunately, societal attitudes about sexual assault often place blame on the victim rather than on the perpetrator, which can lead to feelings of shame and self-blame. Victim blaming is all too common when it comes to sexual assault. Society perpetuates the myth that survivors were somehow asking for it by dressing a certain way, being out late, or even drinking alcohol. These attitudes can make women who have experienced sexual assault feel like they're somehow to blame, which can be incredibly damaging. The shame and stigma associated with being a victim of sexual assault can also prevent women from seeking help and support. We may fear being judged or ostracized by friends and family members, or we may worry about the impact that reporting the assault could have on our job or our reputation. We often internalize these attitudes and beliefs, leading us to feel like we are somehow responsible for what happened to us. The next reason is a lack of trust in the criminal justice system. Out of every 1,000 rapes, only 5 perpetrators will end up in prison. This means that only 0.5% of rapists are ever incarcerated for their crimes. There's an almost uncountable number of cases where the system has failed survivors, leading to a loss of confidence in the ability of the system to provide justice. This is especially true for marginalized communities who may have a history of negative experiences with the criminal justice system. One example of the system failing survivors is the backlog of untested rape kits. These kits contain vital evidence that can help identify perpetrators and lead to convictions, but many remain untested due to lack of resources or priority. This backlog means that survivors are not being taken seriously and that justice may never be served. Another issue is bias within the criminal justice system. Survivors may feel like their case is not being taken seriously due to their gender, race, or other factors. They may also feel that the system is biased in favor of the accused, making it difficult for them to get justice. There have been high-profile cases where the criminal justice system has failed survivors, like the Brock Turner case, in which the attacker received a lenient sentence despite overwhelming evidence against him. This case, and others like it, show survivors that the system is not designed to protect us or provide justice. The fear of not being believed is a common concern among women who have been sexually assaulted. We often feel that we will not be taken seriously or that our stories will be dismissed as false. This fear can be particularly valid in cases where the accused is a high-profile person or has significant power or influence. Unfortunately, there have been many high-profile cases where survivors of sexual assault were not believed or dismissed by law enforcement and the media. In some cases, the accused individual may have used their power and influence to discredit the victim or to avoid facing consequences for their action. This can send a message to other survivors that our stories will not be taken seriously or that we will face significant backlash for coming forward. The media can also play a role in perpetuating the fear of not being believed. In some cases, media coverage of sexual assault cases focuses on the credibility of the victim or on other details that are irrelevant to the crime. This can lead to a culture of victim blaming, and it can make it even more difficult for survivors to come forward. The problems of fear of retaliation, shame and stigma, and lack of trust in the justice system are significant barriers to survivors of sexual assault seeking justice. However, there are potential solutions that can help us address these issues. One solution is to provide survivors with more support and resources. This includes having advocates who can accompany survivors throughout the reporting and legal process, as well as providing counseling and therapy services. Survivors, like all people, also benefit from having supportive and understanding networks of family and friends who can provide practical assistance and emotional support. Another solution is to increase awareness and education around sexual assault and harassment. This includes teaching people about consent, healthy relationships, and bystander intervention. By empowering people to recognize and intervene in situations where someone may be at risk, we can help prevent sexual assault from occurring in the first place. We also need to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. This includes improving the criminal justice system to ensure that it's fair and unbiased. It also means supporting a culture of belief and support for survivors rather than victim blaming and shaming. Finally, we need to work on shifting the broader cultural attitudes and beliefs that perpetuate sexual violence. This includes challenging harmful gender norms and stereotypes and promoting messages of respect, equality, and empowerment. By creating a culture that values and respects all individuals, we can help prevent sexual violence from occurring and ensure that survivors receive the support and justice that they deserve. As individuals, there are several actionable steps that we can take to support survivors and to help address these issues. This includes educating ourselves and others about sexual assault and harassment, supporting survivor-led initiatives and organizations, and advocating for policy changes that promote survivor safety and justice. We can also work towards creating a culture of respect and equality in our personal and professional lives and hold ourselves and others accountable for our actions and words. Above all, having a strong support system is crucial for survivors of sexual assault who are deciding whether or not to report a crime. It can provide emotional support, practical assistance, and a sense of validation for the survivor's experiences. Survivors may turn to family, friends, or professionals such as advocates, therapists, or counselors for support. One important form of support is having an advocate to accompany the survivor throughout the reporting and legal process. Advocates can provide information on the legal process, offer emotional support, and assist in obtaining resources such as medical care or legal representation. They can also help survivors navigate the complex and often intimidating criminal justice system. Counseling and therapy can also be helpful in providing support to survivors. These services can help survivors work through trauma, develop coping strategies, and address the emotional and psychological effects of sexual assault. Therapy can provide a safe space for survivors to discuss their experiences and feelings and to work towards healing and recovery. In addition, having a supportive and understanding network of family and friends can make a significant difference in a survivor's decision to report. Family and friends can offer practical assistance, such as transportation or childcare, as well as emotional support and validation for the survivor's experience. Knowing that they are not alone and have people who believe and support them can be crucial to survivors. While reporting the assault to police may seem like the only option, there are alternative paths that survivors can take to receive help and support. Seeking medical attention immediately after the assault is crucial for physical recovery and can also provide important evidence if the survivor decides to report the assault later on. Survivors can also seek counseling or therapy to address the emotional and psychological impact of the assault. It's important to find a therapist who specializes in trauma and sexual assault, as they will have the appropriate tools to help survivors navigate their trauma. Another option for survivors who don't feel comfortable reporting to the police is to report anonymously. Anonymous reporting allows survivors to share their story without the fear of retaliation or judgment. Anonymous reporting can be useful for survivors who are not ready to come forward publicly, but who still want to hold their perpetrator accountable. Survivors should also be aware of their legal rights and options. It's also important to reach out to a lawyer or other legal advocacy organization for assistance in navigating the legal system. It's important for survivors to remember that there is no right way to heal from sexual assault. Each survivor's journey is unique, and what works for one person may not work for another. It's also critical to seek out resources and support that feel comfortable and empowering. The ultimate goal is to prioritize the survivor's well-being and healing. While seeking justice can be an important part of the healing process for some survivors, it's not the only path towards healing. It's okay to choose not to report or to disengage from the criminal justice system if it feels overwhelming or unsafe. Remember, you are not alone, and there are resources and support available to help you heal and move forward. Remember that there are many reasons why women choose not to report their attack to police or other authorities. Fear of retaliation, shame and stigma, lack of trust in the criminal justice system, and fear of not being believed are just a few of the factors that can prevent survivors from coming forward. It's critical that we as a society work to address these issues and create a safe and supportive environment for survivors. If you or someone you know has been affected by sexual assault, there are resources available to you. The National Sexual Assault Hotline is a confidential and anonymous resource that provides support, information, and referrals to local services. You can call them at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit their website at www.rain.org. Healing is a process, and there are alternatives to reporting, such as seeking medical attention, counseling, or reporting anonymously. It's also critical to have a strong support system in place to help navigate this difficult time. I'd like to encourage you to leave a comment if you think I missed anything, or I should add anything. If you think I missed anything, if you could share this video and continue to bring attention to this important issue, I would really appreciate it. By working together, I'd like to encourage you to leave a comment where survivors feel safe to come forward and receive the support they need to heal. And if you could share this video and continue to bring attention to this important